Welcome to the SimSE video tutorial. When you start a SimSE game, the first thing you'll see is a window that contains a short description of the game you're about to play. It's very important that you read this text very carefully because it will tell you what the goals of the game are, how it will be evaluated whether you meet that goal, and helpful hints about how to succeed in the game. For instance, in this particular game, the waterfall game, this text tells you what your task is: to create groceries at home, what your budget is, $280,000, how much time you have, 1,350 clock ticks, and the fact that these numbers will probably change, so you should keep checking them. It then tells you exactly how your score will be calculated. Out of 100 points, based on the completeness, correctness, and integration of your code, and how well you stick to your budget and schedule. It also gives you some important hints for playing the game successfully. We see here that each hired employee is always paid every clock tick regardless of whether they're busy or not, and that the purchase of a software engineering tool does not guarantee its use. It must be specifically used when assigning a task. These are two things that, if you didn't read this, you could miss, and this oversight could cost you a lot of wasted money and effort. If at any time during the game you feel stuck or are having trouble, you should come back to this screen. It has been known to help stuck players in the past. You can always return to this screen by clicking this eye in the upper left-hand corner of the user interface. There are 5 types of objects or resources in a SimSE game, denoted by these 5 labels: artifacts, customers, employees, projects, and tools. To view the details of an object, first click the label corresponding to that object's type, and all the objects of that particular type will appear in the grid to the right, from which an individual object can be brought into focus. For example, if you want to view the requirements document, which is an artifact, first click the artifact label, which brings all of the artifacts into view in the grid, and then click on the icon representing the requirements document. This brings the requirements document and all of its attributes into view in the bottom area here. In this case, the requirements document has a name, a number of known errors, and a % completeness attribute. You can see that in this game we also have a design document artifact, a code artifact, and a system test plan artifact, all of which can be brought into view in the same way. Alternatively, this all icon can be used to bring up a quick at-a-glance view of all the objects of a particular type. This brings up this table of all the different objects and their attributes. You can customize this table by hiding and unhiding columns to focus in on particular attributes. Simply right-click on the column to bring up the Hide and Unhide menu. Finally, to view the details of a particular employee, you can use either of the methods mentioned so far, clicking on one of their icons here, or using the All menu for employees. Or you can left-click on that employee's icon in the office, bringing them up down here, or in the Current Activities area. Any of these methods will bring the employee and his or her attributes into view in the bottom area. The way to take action in the game is by interacting with your employees, and this is done through each employee's right-click menu. This menu can be accessed by right-clicking on an employee's icon in the office, their icon in the Current Activities area, or their icon on the grid. Let's go through an example scenario to demonstrate how these menus are used. Since we're just starting out in this waterfall game, it would probably be a good idea to purchase some software engineering tools that we might need for development. So we'll just choose to use Calvin for this action. We'll have him purchase tools. And for some actions, you'll be prompted to choose other parameters or participants for that action. In this purchasing tools action, it asks me which tool or tools I want to purchase. It will always tell you any limit that might exist for this particular participant. In this case, it says I must choose at least one tool to purchase. For now, I'll just purchase the requirements tool since that's the one we'll probably be using first. Now Calvin tells me that the tool has been purchased, and if we go and look at this tool, we'll see that it indeed says that it's purchased. The next logical step, since we're in the waterfall model, would be to start requirements. Now the employees in the waterfall model all have experience levels in the various development areas. So in order to intelligently assign someone to requirements, I'd first want to see who's experienced in requirements. So I'll go look at all the employees in the at a glance table so I can quickly compare the requirements experience levels. We see that Andre here has the most experience with 10 years in requirements, so I'm going to choose him. When I tell Andre to create the requirements document, it asks me to choose any other employees that I want to work with him in creating it. It says that I must choose at least 0 other employees, meaning I don't have to choose anyone else to work with him if I don't want to. You'll notice that Andre is not included on this list because since he was the one I clicked on and originally assigned this action to, he's automatically added as a participant in the action. Now I'll choose a few other employees to work with him who I recall were also experienced in requirements: Anita, Calvin, and Pedro. It then asks me to choose a tool to be used in this activity, which you'll notice from the at least 0 here is optional. But I'll choose it since I know that using tools is generally a good idea. The employees tell me that they're creating the requirements document now, and I can also see this in the current activities area over here. Now I have assigned some employees a task, so the next step is to make time move forward so they can actually perform some work and I can see the effects. Moving forward through time is done through the clock, located down here in the lower right-hand corner of the user interface. However, before moving time forward, it's a good idea to first make sure that you have in focus an object of interest. For example, since I just told my employees to work on requirements, I'm going to bring the requirements document into focus before I step the clock forward. Or I could also do this just after starting the clock forward, so that in this way I can monitor the action to see how their work is progressing by watching how the attributes of the requirements document are changing. Now there are 2 different ways to move time forward in SimSE. The first way is to enter the number of clock ticks you want to advance forward in this text field, and then click the Advance Clock button. If you click this Stop at Events checkbox, the clock will go forward until either A, one of the employees has something to say, as has happened here. Calvin has said, "I'm tired and going on a break." Or B, it has already gone forward the specified number of clock ticks, in this case 250, whichever comes first. The second way to advance time is to click the Next Event button, which will cause the simulation to move forward until one of the employees has something to say. This is the most common way of stepping through time in SimSE. You'll notice that as I step through time, you can see that the percent completeness of the requirements document is increasing, indicating that the employees are indeed working on it. For further illustration, let's just take what would be the next logical step of this game and have some other employees who aren't doing anything start reviewing the requirements document that's being developed. So I'm going to choose one of the idle employees, Mimi, to assign the reviewing task to, and the other employees who are also idle to this action. If we now step through time again, we can see that the number of known errors in the requirements document is increasing, indicating that the reviewers are finding errors as they should be. In the meantime, the original requirements document authors inform me that they have finished creating the requirements document, as is indicated by the percent completeness level of 100 down here. Although these have already been demonstrated, it's useful to point out that there are 3 main ways to monitor your game and stay abreast of the events that are occurring. The first one is through using the grid to bring objects into focus and bring up at-a-glance tables. The second one is through viewing the current activities pane over here, which will always show what all of your employees are doing at the moment. The final way to keep informed is through the speech bubbles that pop up over the heads of your employees. It's important that you read these speech bubbles carefully, as they will often give you critical information that will help you succeed in the game. In this particular model, the waterfall model, these speech bubbles are mainly used to inform you of the beginning and ending of activities and other important events. In some other models, however, these speech bubbles are also used to give useful hints and guidance about what steps to take next, so it's to your benefit to read them carefully and not gloss over them. Just a quick note about the end of a game before we go into the explanatory tool, and we'll just end this game for a moment to demonstrate. Once the game is over and the score has been given, take a look again at your objects. Sometimes attributes that were hidden throughout the game will appear, giving you some further insight into things. For instance, if we look here at the requirements document, we can see that we now have a num unknown errors attribute indicating the errors that you didn't find, and a % erroneous attribute. These hidden attributes that become visible at the end of the game can help you to figure out why you got the score you did. For instance, if you thought you found and corrected all of the errors, but then saw that there were a number of errors you didn't find, you'll know why your score probably got docked some.